All right, Ohio Political News. It's the podcast show that... Get that out of here. All right, how's everybody doing tonight? We got a really big show tonight. All right, this could be a lot of fun tonight. We're gonna talk about some voter ID, electronic voter ID, which I don't think is a good idea because I think you can cheat. You can cheat a lot. And we're also going to talk NOACA, and we're going to talk some property taxes. And we have John Morrow with us here tonight. We'll be talking some NOACA. If you guys understand what NOACA is, because I sure as hell don't. Let's see who's out here tonight. There's me. How you doing, Brian?
Welcome everyone.
Leonard, made it. How you doing, Leonard?
I'm here.
All right, that's good. That is good to see. And I'm getting our guest here. And there he is. Okay, John. Good to see you here tonight. And let me see if I've got sound for you. It's always something. We had to bring you in a different direction, and I don't know if we got the sound hooked up. Why don't you say something once? Okay. What happened to the sound? What would have happened to the sound? Kent, this is where you shine.
Check your audio.
To the sound?
Check your audio.
Check
your audio.
Here we go. I undid it. How's it now?
All right, great.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Good evening. All right, so let's talk about NOACA here tonight because I've got the slideshow. We're going to go through it. People got to know about this crazy organization that gets $50 million a year, and then they're supposed to distribute the grant money and stuff like that. But I know that you, John Mara, Mayor of Timberlake, so you're involved in some of what happens with NOACA, and we're going to go right to it. So this is some of a slideshow, and help me out here. What is this all about here? And first of all, NOACA stands for Northeast Ohio Area-Wide Coordinating Agency. And here's another trivia question for you guys. When do you think NOACA was formed? When do you think it was originally formed? What year? Anybody want to guess? Go ahead and guess.
20 years ago?
Go ahead and guess. It doesn't matter what you say. Jonathan, any idea?
Was 93.
According to the paper here, 74. You believe that? 1974.
Oh, well, yeah. The original, but I think it's kind of morphed and changed.
It's morphed into like all green projects and crap like that. So let's.
It grew red horns and a tail and cloven hooves.
Yeah, originally was for infrastructure, was it not?
You're right. It was.
Supposedly, yes.
It actually started off as a good idea. It started off as
for roads and bridges, mainly to get grants for roads and bridges.
But it's morphed into what? Just a big green monster, basically.
The Green New Deal agenda, pretty much.
So what's let's go right into this here thing. I just got on the PowerPoint. So what's anything
John,
good here?
We got to make sure everybody knows about John. John Mara is the
mayor
alternate for John Plechnik.
Okay, so John Plechnik is on the board of directors for NOACA, and you are filling in whenever he doesn't show up, correct?
Yes, I'm the alternate for Commissioner Plechnik, and he appointed me, and like I said, I'll be there. I was at all the meetings so far, and usually they have a board of directors, and basically there's a tier of how they work. We're on the board of directors. Everyone pretty much is on the board of directors, and they have a president, which is Chris Ronayne. He's from the Cuyahoga County Executive, and then they have first vice president Justin Bibb. He's the mayor of Cleveland, and then second vice president, Commissioner of James DeBork. They go through territory. Then they've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 assistant secretaries, no, 7 assistant secretaries, 4 assistant treasurers.
So they
It
got a
just
lot of
goes on
people.
and on.
They got too many
A lot of
people.
people.
Too many people.
And,
All right, so what's going on with this, John? This net zero cool project. What is this all about?
well, basically, that's green infrastructure. That what they're going to do is that there's 2 parts to that. One is of this mural they're going to paint on the outside of the building, and then there's this cool net zero cool project that they're going to be doing on top of the building. So it's like 2 phases, and they're using grant money for this supposedly. But as you can see, there are $900,000, it's almost $1 million worth of this. Contract with F-Buddy Contracting. Again, that was approved by the board resolution in December 2019. Again, there's so many things that I'm just getting into this are very, very suspect. What's going on? Where's all this paint from? Where's the money come from? And so forth. So it's just a lot, like I said, of just bureaucracy. And all I know is that, they just keep growing and growing and growing and growing. They just lost focus of what their main goal was for roads and bridges, and basically are doing all these other side projects. And this was probably the worst. I don't know, when you come up to it, you'll bring up that mural, but you can see there, what they're doing, building green roof systems, parking lots, again, picnic benches with things, or carports with greenery on top of it. I mean,
Is
none of
this
this makes sense.
Is this what's going to cost $1 million? They're going to redo the parking area.
Pretty
and put a
much,
bunch of
this is
grass?
what they're spending their $1 million on right here. All these pictures, what they see, these are all artists' rendering of what they're going to do. And as we know, the costs that they anticipate are nothing near where they're going to be. I mean, they're going to have so many change orders and change conditions on this because, again, it's not going to go as planned. And there's so many things they've eliminated. When you get into the mural there, we'll talk about that a little bit. That's what basically what they did was they just threw this at the subcommittee. We had no idea what this was. They just put a presentation together. They say that they chose it from a bunch of different artists, and then they chose from a couple different styles. And there were, I guess, a team of 4 employees from NOACA that basically chose that mural.
It's beautiful, John. It's beautiful.
And they're going to do all 3 sides, by the way. That, by the way, is all 3 sides wrapped. But you'll see that they did some renderings. But, a couple of things they left out is there's no paint included in that cost estimate of $140,000. And then, there's areas where it's not being painted. What are we doing with those areas?
Okay,
So,
well, first,
again,
hold on a second now, because this is located on East 13th Street. I think they said their address is. So when I'm driving downtown East 13th Street and I see this
Well, it's
mural,
actually 3625, which is 36th and Superior.
and you can tell that is just so beautiful. Is it going to take my heart away? My heart's going to stop beating when I see this crap on the side of a building. Okay, so how much is that going to cost?
Beauty's really in the eyes of the beholder, but I don't know about this one.
Yeah, how much is that going to cost taxpayers? Well, the whole project's $1 million, right?
Well, this portion of it would be about $140,000. But then again, like I said, we didn't see anything in the cost proposal where they're going to be providing the paint for it and also all the other costs.
What does $140,000? What does $140,000 cover then? It doesn't cover the paint. What does it cover?
It's basically $100,000 for the painter, and then $30,000 for prep, and I believe another $20,000 or $30,000. It's broken down in that PDF there, but yeah, there's another cost in there. But yeah, it's just basically those costs don't include the paint. And again, either way, it's instead of painting the building a decent color, making it look nice. Well, yeah, there's the one side of the building, the other side. And then there's another picture there. You can see where they have the back of the building also.
Yeah.
How long does this paint last? I mean, is this
Well, that
forever?
we don't know. I mean, you can see on the right side there's the upper portion there. They don't have that painted at all. Who's going to take care of that? And again, what quality of paint are they going to use? Who's going to provide it? Do they make, then all those different colors? You're going to have all these different color paints. That's not going to be too cheap. So again, nothing makes sense. I can see cracks in the parking lot there. They should be using crack sealer in the cracks and so forth instead of worrying about painting murals on the building. At least paint it with a decent color, put it with good, decent paint on there. But
priorities. Come on, what are you talking about here?
Well,
All right,
that's
let's
a
go back to
million
this
there.
for a second. So
Yes.
this is that parking lot, that tiny little parking lot we were just looking at, right? So this is what they're going to do to refurbish it.
Are those vegetables or flowers on top there?
It's just greenery, I guess. But who's going to maintain?
I mean,
who's gonna go up there to
yeah, but
maintain it?
greenery. It'd be nice if they put vegetables so they can give it out to the people, I guess.
And then, is it going to support all the weight of the soil? And then when people go up there to maintain it with the weight of the men up there also, and then how are they going to maintain it? How are they going to get up and down off of it? I mean, what's it going to look like? It's just, and then why do they have to put carports in behind there, the parking lot, for the people to be there just part-time to shade their vehicles? It's a total
Somebody's
waste
got to
of
get
money.
up there and with a lawnmower and a weed whacker. Somebody's got to get up there with a
Or
lawnmower and a
something.
weed whacker and have some fun. And then they're going to fall off the edge and it's going to be a huge lawsuit. But
Well, I
here,
think
let me
they
ask
should
you
put Tomato
something.
plants up there, Joe.
What's that?
I think they should put tomato plants up there. I mean, at least grow some vegetables
Right,
so people can eat.
Yeah, get the tomato plants growing and whatever else you could. Then you have a whole garden up there. You can get a guy with a tractor. He could be plowing the field a little bit. So this whole project's like $1 million. I bet you they go way over budget. But let me ask you this, John, because you know a lot about contracting and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you got to put soil, and then when it rains, that soil is going to get wet. It's going to get heavy. All kinds of possible hardships, problems that they're not really considering with this, right?
Well, I haven't seen the design. I'm assuming they probably have gravel underneath, and then some type of barrier between the gravel, soil separator between the gravel and then the soil, so that when the rain goes and permeates through the soil, it doesn't wash into the gravel or plug up the drains, because they have to have drainage in there. You can't just have it just sit there and then just accumulate. So it's not going to absorb, and it just doesn't make sense, because it's going to absorb water, but then again, it creates weight, and then it's not good for the roof. I mean, you can't keep that roof underneath. It's always going to be moist. In the wintertime, it's going to always freeze. It's going to be like one just big frozen solid block up there. And then when you have all the heavy rains, it's just a mess. I mean, it doesn't, don't see the reason or the purpose for it at all. And like I said, it's something that just getting into what NOACA, what they're doing, what they're not doing, and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and they're doing everything they're not supposed to do. So,
It's a very, very
it's a
strange.
problem.
Yeah, it's a very strange organization, because now they get about $50 million, I think, roughly. I think their budget was like $51 million. They're getting this income from the state. They get it from the federal. I don't know where else they get money from, but
They also get dues. I'm finding that they get dues. Lake County and a lot of the other communities, City of Cleveland, so forth, have to pay dues. So again, they have on the sheet that we received on our agenda, they had on there that these are all the past dues that are owed, and it just shows almost every community owing dues to them. But then again, I haven't gotten into it enough. I just got on the finance committee as an alternate, so I'm going to dig into that more to find out, what these dues, why we have to pay them at all. I mean, why are we paying dues to a coordinating agency that basically they're getting a percentage off of all the grants that they write and that get passed through to them, and that they help us pass through. So they're getting their commission there. Plus, I hear that they're getting some money funded directly from the state. Now, again, we have to find out what that is. They're saying that no, they only get funded through grants, but again, we don't see it. We don't see where all the money is coming
it's
from.
a big mystery.
We really don't see where it's going either.
Yeah, it's a big mystery. We don't know what projects have really been completed by NOACA. They get the $50 million. It's pretty hard to tell where it's going, except that there's a lot of people that are employed there, and some of them are making a lot of money to do nothing, to do absolutely nothing, it seems like. So, yeah, it's I don't know. It's shrouded in mystery. I don't know if anybody has any questions for him. You have any questions, Brian? You want to throw at him?
I do.
Well, okay, go ahead, Jonathan.
All right, so the first thing is, it just took me a brief moment on my phone to pull up the most dangerous cities. According to U.S. News and World Report, last time I checked, Cleveland was the fourth most dangerous city for violent crime. It appears maybe we've gotten marginally better. We're currently listed as seventh most dangerous places to live of major cities, which is heartbreaking. I grew up in and around Cleveland. My family's been sort of several generations working on building the city. It's destroyed itself with lack of policing and safety. So the notion that we're going to spend all this exhaustive time and money and energy and thought on some sort of elevated green space, and this, you know what that mural looks like to me? It looks like graffiti magnet. So in addition to whatever the quality of the paint, what is the strategy for dealing with the incessant graffiti that's likely to be all over the darn thing? I mean, it's just utter nonsense that we're dealing with all kinds of real issues like homelessness and violent crime, and people can't get real groceries. It's madness. So connected with that, I pulled up another thing here, just for relevance. We know, anybody who's been looking at NOACA and paying any attention whatsoever knows that NOACA started with a mandate to focus on roads and bridges. Well, they've just morphed so drastically into anything else, everything else, including air and water and transportation and busing and all kinds of stuff. They just keep sort of granting themselves additional powers and rights and authority, which is ridiculous. This should have been put in check decades ago. But here's something that I found interesting. I actually shared it with some people like me and John Mara, and I want to mention actually John Callis and Skip Claypool, two other gentlemen to follow. But here's something, if you're on X, find the profile Duchess of Exeter. She goes by Who's Fibbing, and she has a great post from a few days ago about the very first wind farm. And as NOACA and places like it talk about how we're going to save the environment, and we're going to bring in this climate action plan for Northeast Ohio, and we're going to single-handedly save the planet by scaling back, doing all these ridiculous things like building wind farms and solar panels and all that stuff. News keeps trickling out that all of these efforts all over the world are failing dramatically. They're dramatically failing. So we keep talking about spending hundreds of millions and billions of dollars on these projects. People get rich and nothing gets fixed. So this mural thing to me is indicative of the stupidity of the whole thing. And as promised, I'm going to plug something that is imminent. I haven't done the editing on it yet, but I invited Skip Claypool and John Callis onto a recorded session just to talk about NOACA. I understand that some of our audience, that term NOACA is probably unfamiliar, but those two guys, they really go at it. They're going to define and describe the whole nightmare mess. My thing, and I guess I'm going to turn this into a suggestion and question for John Mara, is how quickly can neighboring counties like Lake, Geauga, Medina, and Lorraine just get out of this stinking thing, because it's a quagmire of money suck.
Very good question. I've been talking to Commissioner Pleshnik about that, and he's saying that it's not possible. But again, I think it is possible. You know, according to Skip, he's calculated ways that we could do it. We just have to basically get these commissioners together to basically do it. So I think that's going to come to light, because Skip is also an alternate, and him and I together working there, and with the other gentleman, I think John, whatever his name, I forgot his last name, but I think with us three there working together, we can pretty much expose what's going on. And then once we get everything exposed, and how they're not really helping our communities, the other 4 or 5 communities here, pretty much we can then form our own MPO and then get something done. Because again, we don't mesh with Cuyahoga County at all. I mean, we're so different from, Cuyahoga Cuyahoga, from Lake, from Geauga. We're more with Lake, with Ashtabula County and Geauga County and Lake County and Medina. We all mesh together. Pretty much we're more similar. Cuyahoga County is just another breed. They're by themselves, and plus, not to mention, when you look at the way it's all composed of, you've got 5 on the where's it at here? The executive committee. You've got 5 on the executive committee. You've got the president, which is basically he's from Cuyahoga County, and then you've got 1 representative from Cleveland, and then you have 1 commissioner from Geauga County, a commissioner from Lorain County, a commissioner from Lake County, a commissioner from Medina County. So you have 5. 6 of them. You have 1 from each county, but then Cleveland also gets a vote. So, and that's the other thing. Cuyahoga County pretty much has 2 votes when it comes to passing any of the legislation when it gets to the executive committee. And that's another thing, because, if the other 3 counties, we can stop it, okay? But then again, they have a veto vote, so pretty much if they don't want it to go through, it won't go through, and we don't have the power to go through. So again, these are some of the things, the way they have it set up, it favors Cleveland, and the other counties, pretty much we all get left out. And then if you look through, I was going through their agenda and a lot of the projects they have going on, and pretty much almost 90% of the projects are all through Cuyahoga County. But the other thing is, none of them are getting done. I mean, I'm trying to go through now to see what projects that they first introduced 3-4 years ago when they first started looking into it, and what they've accomplished and what they have, projected to do. And it pretty much seems like everything's the same. They haven't gotten much done. So this is what we're kind of finding out, that they're just, just a total waste of our taxpayer dollars, even just for grants. Because again, they're functioning. It's costing us money. They keep growing. Every day I'll see ads on Facebook. They're now hiring. NOACA is now hiring all these different positions. So, they're growing like big government out of control. And, we're just trying to follow where the money's going. Just too much money going out, and where they're getting all their money.
Excuse me. I think that's a big part of the problem here, because initially I was like really concerned about NOACA, because it's like, what are they trying to do? These 15-minute cities and all this other junk. But to me, now that I look at it more closely and everything, they don't do anything. It just seems like they bring money in. A lot of people get lots of big salaries. They keep hiring more and more people, but projects aren't getting done. That's like an afterthought to get a project. For instance, if we look towards you at Timberlake, you're the mayor out there. Have any projects that you know of come your way through NOACA? Are there any projects going to happen through NOACA with your area? Do you know of anything in Lake County, let's say, that happened?
Well, what happened was 3 years ago, we applied through NOACA to put a sidewalk in along Lakeshore Boulevard. But we got put on the tip, but nothing ever got done. So what we ended up doing is, one of the councilmen here, Ryan Conrad, we filed directly through to ODOT to put the sidewalk in. And we were able to get that done. We accomplished it. So once we did it, the only thing is, then we had to file with NOACA to put it on a tip, because either way you have to go through an MPO, was what we're finding out. So after we did all that, NOACA then decided that they would help us out and give us a $300,000 grant, which we have to have a 20% match, which is $75,000. I don't know how they do the math, but either way, they came in after the fact, I guess. But that's about it. And I guess they just threw us a bone on that. But that kind of threw kind of a wrench in it, because now we have to now try to come up with that match, which, we're a small community. It's hard to do. So, again,
let me show you something here, John, real quick. And I don't know, can you make heads or tails of any of their financial stuff? Let me see if I can make it bigger. That doesn't work. Very confusing as to, and that's another thing I found out with NOACA. Everything is just so difficult to try to analyze, try to understand, and you got to believe that that's just done on purpose. Trying to figure out.
No, we don't know where the money's coming from and where it's really going. It's just numbers there, and some of that federal money is grant money, and and again, we don't know if it's supposed to be earmarked for something or not. But it's like I said, there's no really any detail in any of these numbers, and when you try to make sense of them, it just doesn't make sense. But when you do look, though, you look at the labor numbers. I mean, those are the big numbers: wages and benefits, pretty much, and then they keep growing. They just keep showing that they're going to grow another 4.7 million this year on the budget. So, they just keep growing and growing every year. And what they're doing is adding more and more personnel is what they're doing, just like they do with big government, like they're doing with the school systems. They do with, we found out with Lake County Health is the same thing. 75% of their payables is wages and benefits. So we're finding that with everything. I mean, pretty much we're going to have to do a complete doge of personnel through everything, because some of these people, I mean, are they really needed? Are they necessary? And now that we have AI helping us with everything, do we need all these people doing all these jobs when we can have pretty much AI help and do all those things for us? And then we have a lot of good people that are really good. They can do the work of 3 and 4 people. Why do we need, one person just slacking off, or 3, 4 people slacking off and one just doing all the work? So that's another thing. And the other problem is we have these assistants. People keep moving up. They get a high position of assistant, then all of a sudden, assistant needs an or an administrator needs an assistant. Then those assistants need support staff. So, and they just keep growing more and more and more. So that's where the issues we're finding with everywhere. It's just too many personnel, and what are these people doing, and how are they benefiting the community? So,
well, they got a nice job. They got a nice job out of it. They're making a good salary, and whether they get anything accomplished or not, who cares, right? According to them,
great health care and benefits and pensions. So
right, so they got it all. So it's just another way of creating jobs for Ohio. Phony jobs, because these are all created through the taxpayer. But that's what it seems like to me. Well, when's your next meeting? You got a meeting coming when?
We have a board of directors meeting this Friday coming up. And so I'll be there, and like I said, I won't be limited to 3 minutes, so at least I'll be able to voice my opinion and some of the concerns I have with a lot of these things that they're going to do. So we'll see where that all goes. But I guess we'll come on again when we can bring Skip on too. He can go into more details about that NOACA. Like I said, I'm just getting into all this now, but.
You're asking questions. That's the key
a lot
thing.
To grasp,
and that's the one thing they don't want. They don't want you asking any questions or anything. And it's
Absolutely
good that you get more than 3 minutes to talk now, instead of the public. You get 3 minutes, and then that's it. Okay.
So,
Joe, I've got a question for John.
Go ahead.
Yes, Brian.
John, and if I'm remembering this correctly, I think Governor DeWine has to approve us getting out of the existing MPO and forming our own. And I think that was part of the hang-up of the commissioners, Lake County commissioners. They didn't think DeWine would approve it. Am I correct?
You're right. I think I heard something of that sort. And the only thing I'd say to that, if that's the case, and then just like what we're doing with this property tax reform, we're not going to be able to rely on DeWine for any support. We'll just have to wait for Vivek Ramaswamy to come in here, and we'll just give him that. Also, we'll just have him help us out with that. So, along with property tax reform, which we know that he's all for. So, that'd be great.
Yeah. That'll be another thing that we'll try to get a hold of his.
But I'm going to double check into that, Brian. That's a good point. We have to double check into that, though. That's.
Hey, one quick question there from the chat. So, is there any required oversight for MPOs, which is what NOACA is? It's a metropolitan planning organization. So is there any kind of required oversight that we even know?
Yes. We as the mayors and commissioners and so forth that are on the board are pretty much the oversight, which we are pretty much left in the dark. We're told at the last minute, and we're given just pages and pages. I mean, you saw the document that for next board meeting, it's 150 pages long. And, you have to try to digest through it all. And then a lot of this stuff comes through these subcommittees, which, again, they don't prepare ahead of time. They don't show us what they're going to have. And we're just shot, like that mural. We had no idea what it was, what it was looking like.
That's a beautiful mural. Come on. It's a beautiful mural.
We see a presentation, and it says, okay, here, everyone in favor, vote yay, and then all opposed. And, of course, I voted no. And, and that was it. It was over. Now it goes to the board next week, and then if they approve it,
right.
It gets done.
Right.
It's rubber stamped, and it's
Just
see what
another
we're
rubber
finding out.
stamp
School board
organization.
meetings,
Yeah. What,
Another
just
rubber
another rubber
stamp.
stamp organization. Where have you heard that from before? I mean, it's everywhere when it comes to state politics.
You got that right.
Well, thanks a lot, John. Really appreciate it. Give us an
All
update
right.
then, and let us know. And keep raising holy heck out there with those meetings and stuff. That's really good. All right, we got to talk photo ID here tonight. Marcel Stribich is with us. Hello, Marcel.
What's going on? You guys ready for this treat?
How you doing? How you doing? Huh?
Pretty good, man. Always stirring up a storm somewhere here in Western Ohio.
That's right. Yeah, Western Ohio. Where are you located again? I never.
Yeah, we're just between Cincinnati and Dayton.
Okay, right out there, Cincinnati and Dayton. Does it have an actual name, the city, or is it just?
It's like a township. It's a suburb of Dayton.
Okay, very good. All right, well, I'm going to have you probably lead us through a lot of this, and we'll all jump in, every one of us. Let's just jump in and talk about this whole thing with digital. It's actually digital ID, and I think where we want to center on tonight is using it for voting, because maybe a digital ID in and of itself might not be the worst thing, because it's very convenient. It's on your cell phone. You know, it can be worked across Bureau of Motor Vehicles and other places could look at it simultaneously and everything. I guess the big problem I have, though, is when you start to get into voting with something like that. That's when you're gonna run into a lot of problems and cheating. We got to make sure that doesn't happen. So let me just ask you that real quick. What do you think about a voter, or not voter ID, but about an ID on your cell phone in general? Would that be such a bad thing?
Well, first I got to take your audience to the 35,000-foot view, right? Everybody saw how COVID developed all of these digital technologies, the government forcing people to have to go online for government services, people having to do everything remote, right? And it was a huge wealth transfer, and it was a huge opportunity for tech companies, financial companies, healthcare, to now try to do telemedicine and do all these things that just put us right in the area where we're the most vulnerable, right? Because I think everybody understands that identity theft and breaches are prevalent. And whether you're talking about networks and servers, routers, databases, even our telecommunication companies, 9 of them, in fact, just in December, were reported as having been penetrated and exploited by the Chinese, right? So what started to happen, and I'll take the audience just back before we get into the actual bill that's coming forward and what's in the bill in Ohio, and why people should be opposed to that bill because of the failure of its safeguards and accountability and oversight. But I'll just go to the 35,000-foot view, because people need to understand how industry is manipulating this situation for their benefit, and how they're transferring risk from themselves and they're putting it onto us, the consumers. And for those of us who want convenience, there's no security. I will tell you, as an Air Force officer, that was the biggest mantra they always talked to us about. You cannot have convenience and security. They're inverse relationships. And this bill is being sold as privacy, convenience, and security. So in 2017, we got started getting a lot of ransomware, a lot of identity theft going on in industry. And industry formed a group, which is in effect a lobbyist group, coming out of the Cybersecurity and Law Center in 2017. And they calculated, the government issues authoritative identity information. And we want that information, because our data can be monetized by companies for products and for services. And so they got together, 27 members, a lot of Fortune 500 guys. You had fintech, you had healthcare, you had banks, you had just an assortment of different industry reps. And they said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to pitch this to the federal government for identity credentialing, access, and management. It sounds good, right? We're all going to have our own online identity verification and validation. And when we do that, we'll be able to fend off. Well, just think about it. In 2020, there was $56 billion. There's your nemesis, by the way. I didn't know you have a cousin in the legislature.
Oh yeah, Joe Miller, right? And the funny thing is about Joe Miller is that he lives. He's part of his district is North Ridgeville. I'm thinking about moving back to North Ridgeville. I grew up in North Ridgeville, so there'd be 2 of us, Joe Miller. If I ever ran for state rep, it'd be Joe Miller versus Joe Miller, and
that's going to be too many Joe Millers for that area. Yeah, there's not enough room for 2 Millers. But so they were getting ripped off, and they lost $56 billion. So then when COVID occurred and all this grant money came down from Congress, the government of Ohio and other governments had very, very weak online authentication identity services. And they estimated, this group of consortium lobbyists from these industries, that there was $165 billion stolen during COVID because they weren't prepared for the policies that they created, which were, in hindsight, excessive. But either way, never let a crisis go to waste. So they started to pitch the federal government. They had some traction in Congress. Keep in mind, the real ID that's supposed to come out now and be active in 2025 is a national ID. So that's taken place. That was originally approved by Congress in 2005. So you see all of this consolidation to try to centralize our personally identifiable information in one location.
Okay, hang on one second. Just because I don't want to get lost in the weeds and all this kind of thing. So this bill that's coming up, House Bill 78, we're looking at some of the sponsors there. One of them's Joe Miller. Another one is a Republican, Thomas Hall. And then they've got co-sponsors and stuff. Let's just let me know point blank. Is this a good idea to have electronic ID, or is this a horrible idea? And I know that you were explaining that, but I just want to zero in on that for a second. So in your mind, it's probably not good, right?
Yeah, as written, the implementation of this is not good. It's not that the idea is wrong. It's the implementation or the lack thereof of the government side of the accountability. Okay, so you have 3 Republicans who went ahead with this. And remember, I was telling you the federal government got pitched. Then this coalition came down to the state level. And now we're one of the first states to be going in this direction. A few other states are moving in this direction. So Representative Tom Hall out of Liberty Township, not far north of Cincinnati, Representative Josh Williams and Representative Gary Click have been joined by 6 Democrat co-sponsors, which include the minority leader, Allison Russo. It's kind of an interesting dynamic. You got double the amount of Democrat sponsors here compared relative to the Republican sponsors. And what prompted this, they just did their sponsor testimony, and this week on Tuesday at 10 a.m., if you want to watch this, they're going to give their proponent testimony. And I'll save this for the end, but we need to do a call to action on it. Governor DeWine came out in the summer of 24, and he basically gave the blessing for Ohio's driver's licenses and state IDs to be added to Apple wallets. So now people can authenticate their identity when they're purchasing those services. And so this is the next step, is to how to codify what's going to be called a mobile driver's license. Let me tell you an example of a weakness we uncovered, and we've pushed back, and now they're starting to try to create amendments. But the way they wrote this bill was that anytime, for the sake of proof of identity in the state of Ohio, your physical ID and license is equivalent to a digital equivalent of that. Here's the problem. You're driving in a car. Police officer pulls you over. You forgot your physical license. You say, no problem. I have it on my phone. So you pull your phone up, right? You say, look, here's my driver's license, officer. The officer cannot authenticate your license with his eyeballs because it is a machine code, and he now needs to use the appropriate software and drivers on a module reader. So this bill is going to incur massive fiscal costs and expense as we upgrade our IT infrastructure to accommodate this, which has not been brought forward in this bill. So there's no fiscal analysis on that. Let's look at who they're giving this task to. So the Bureau of Motor Vehicles has all of our data, right? And we use that as a source for to start the process for voter registration and other things like that. Well, they're a private entity. Most people don't know that's not a government entity. Okay, they are a private franchise, and so they associate and work for what's called the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators. If you look them up, they're a nonprofit. Why would a nonprofit be in this business? Well, this nonprofit is coalescing all industry, so they're going to form a contract for this product that they're going to give the state of Ohio. And this product will not be public records requestable because they are 2 private entities coming into an agreement. And if you read this bill, what you're going to find is it's a blank slate for these 2 private entities to collude and come up with a program, the verification process, and to come up with what they say in here is a capability that reasonably matches and also provides reasonable security standards. So if you were to think about that, that is an undefined metric That means that these private vendors can do what they want and design whatever their system is without having someone like Ohio's chief information officer, who should be involved as an enterprise integrator. Because why would we want to create something so narrow? Because that's going to lead to vendors coming back and picking us apart, and they're going to be making a ton of money trying to integrate everybody's systems with these modules to verify and read this mobile driver's license. So there's a lot of things wrong in the way they wrote it. They also accept all other states' digital driver's licenses. Well, if Ohio couldn't even bother to tell the vendors what the security standard guidelines need to be for the design of it, why would we trust California or somebody else's driver's license to know exactly if they actually have a standard of verification process? So this thing needs to be pulled back. They need to define the standards, the privacy, the security, the data management controls, because I, as a user, or anybody who's going to want to participate in this, does not want my biometric data, which is what they're going to need to match your information.
All right, what is, let me ask you another question. Biometric information. What is biometric? What does that mean?
Sure. So biometric data is unique, personally identifiable data, arguably the most critical and sensitive we have. If it's stolen, what
is it though? Is it like credit card information? What is it? Is it credit card information?
Plastic.
Huh?
No, it's not plastic. What it is it's your iris scan in your eye. It's your thumb. It's your facial characteristics. And so what's happened over time is now there are applications, and you see this if you go travel at the TSA. They make you stand in front of a camera, and without your knowledge, they're taking your biometric information. Now, you can decline that, but most people don't know. They just want to be compliant when they go to the airport. So I'm just saying right now, industry wants your biometric data. It's the most valuable data out there, and they're going to store that somewhere. Are they going to store it on a foreign server? Are they going to store it in the United States? This bill doesn't.
That bill doesn't talk about that, and I guess the other thing that the bill doesn't do is it's a private vendor, right? So, like you were saying, so that's a problem right there. Brian, what do you think about an ID that's digital? You carry it around on your cell phone.
Yeah, that's the step before the implantable chip, probably. I experienced that when I went to United Health. Went to see the doctor, and the girl said, "Well, do you mind if I take your picture?" And I said, "I sure do." Well, she didn't take it, but there are people that willingly just give them their biometric information. And I agree with Marcel. People do not realize the implication of that. I'm not in favor of it at all.
I got you there. Jonathan, what do you think, man?
I'm completely opposed to the idea, at least for the foreseeable future. Marcel brings up several good points, and I'm actually going to reference back to some earlier comments that Marcel Sturbich has made in prior programs, and that has to do with Ohio's chops for cybersecurity. It was Marcel, actually on this very program many months ago in the lead up to the 2024 elections, who pointed out that Ohio was implementing a 2005 era cybersecurity for our elections. I mean, we don't have a history in this state of treating these things securely. When you put that together with the fact that data mining is the new gold, we all know that. I mean, I forget where it is. I've been watching some streaming shows, and there's this ridiculous dumb commercial with Matthew McConaughey talking about how in the world of cyber, your information is the new gold. And I think we should all acknowledge that. And to make this leap in already porous and non-secure Ohio, to say, sure, I'm just for the added convenience, quote unquote, of having my ID on my phone, I'm going to give Ohio all this data, is to me preposterous. To me, I believe that there are really troublesome implications of this. I've gone into it a little bit of detail, but actually what I'd suggest is look up GFI Ohio. That's Grassroots Freedom Initiative. That's a Mark Pukita initiative. Mark has made a little video. It's quick, concise. It's like maybe 2.5 minutes or something. I think it does a really good job of hitting the high notes on why this thing is really bad. I think he's on most all the major platforms. On X, YouTube and other ones. Look for GFI Ohio. I think that little video that Mark Pukita does is a good primer for why I think all of us should be an absolute no. I mean, candidly, I think even before watching the GFI Ohio video, seeing Allison Russo's name on there. Allison Russo is like the Nancy Pelosi of Ohio. She is so far left. That's the woman, for anybody that doesn't know, as a side note, the reason I make that comment, Allison Russo is the one that tried to go after homeschoolers in Ohio because of that weird thing that happened in Sandusky. There's a long backstory to that, but she is the leader of the Democrat Party in Columbus. Her name and a whole bunch of other Democrats being on this should be kind of all the tell we need.
Yeah, okay. So anyhow, I do have some of Mark Bakita here. So I sliced a little bit out. Let's see.
There
what he has
are
to say
3
here.
Ohio Republican legislators who are pushing a bill to have us give the state more biometric information by which to track and control us. It's a bill to allow for digital driver's licenses and digital state IDs, and the legislation could allow these digital IDs to be used to vote. Republican Ohio House member Thomas Hall is a sponsor of the bill, House Bill 78, or HB 78, titled Authorized Use of a Digital Driver's License or State ID Card. Hall is a sponsor of this calamity, along with Democrat Joe Miller. Co-sponsors of the bill are Republicans Gary Click and Josh Williams. HB 78 needs to die in committee this week. Yes, HB 78 allows for the use of a digital driver's license or state identification card as a valid form of photo identification. Validation process. A digital ID must be verified and valid, meaning it cannot be expired, revoked, or suspended for it to be accepted. Limited access. The bill ensures that only the identity information, name, photo, address, etc., is accessible when presenting a digital ID. Election officials would not be able to access other data on the device. It is unbelievable to us that 3 Republicans would team up with 6 Democrats to push a bill potentially impacting our elections negatively when they did almost nothing in the last General Assembly to fix the gaping security holes in Ohio's election system.
All right. Let me ask you, Marcel, then. Let's talk about voting specifically. What are the problems? What's the main problem if I use, or if everybody is allowed to use, a digital ID? What would be the main problems with that?
I'll tell you right up front, I mentioned the module and the readers. Anybody who pulls up their phone, it cannot talk to and or connect with the e-poll book. So if I'm going in to vote in person and this bill were to have passed, now I think they've made amendments to try to close that, to not allow for it. I'll tell you why I think the Democrats are going to get around that in short order and why they're actually on this bill right after I tell you this. But if you are a poll worker, you've got a machine in front of you, you take somebody's physical ID and you scan it. And the voter definition file comes into that e-poll book because it's been transferred into that computer. And it says this person is an active voter, you give them a regular ballot. Or this person is inactive, then you let them go vote provisional. If somebody comes to you that day of voting and they pull up their phone and say, I'm using my mobile driver's license, here you go. I neither have the ability with my eyeballs to authenticate that that's not some artificial intelligence generated. I cannot verify the integrity of the data or the origin of what's on their phone. And so it's useless to me, no matter how much it looks like them, no matter what the information on it says, because it won't talk to my electronic poll book. And they're not going to fix that for years because there's several vendors that run voter registration e-poll books in Ohio. So they had this thing suited up and ready to go that basically said any state official, we caught this, by the way, in enough time, I think, but it's still not over as far as the danger to the other things I talked about. But any state official that asks you for this ID, this was going to be a valid proof of identity. So what that would have done is the Secretary of State would have changed his policies and we would have been using mobile driver's licenses. And who knows, we still could if they dork this up. So we're looking to cut that off. But I'll tell you why I think the Democrats gang loaded and piled into this bill. The Democrats have a constitutional amendment that they're pushing called Ohio Voter Bill of Rights. And it's the Ohio Voter Bill of Wrongs. Besides making our voter ID optional again, allowing us to use any fabricated utility statements or other forms that we had prior to our voter ID bill, they called for same-day voter registration, unlimited drop boxes, automatic voter registration, a slew of other problems. And then in one of their requirements and provisions, it says to allow for the use of if new technological advancements for IDs. So in essence, what they're saying is if you have the capability for a digital ID, you'll be allowed to use that. So what happens here? Republicans think, oh, well, we're taking that out, right? That's not going to be a problem. We're affirming we're not going to need digital ID for elections. We're prohibiting it. So let's say the Democrats' petition ballot amendment passes in a year from now. It's going to go right out over the top of HB 78. It's going to squash whatever amendments that would have prohibited it. And thank you very much, Republicans. You just gave me the vehicle I need to implement this. And oh, by the way, the Democrats will tell anybody who complains, well, this is bipartisan. We had Republicans, and so I don't know what you Republicans are complaining about. So it's like our people, any people on this whole thing, they have narrow focus and not understanding. There's a lot of security, privacy, data control problems and issues. They left wide open. They basically turned the keys of the kingdom and gave it to the vendor to figure out how they want to introduce this. That's not how you do business. If you're the government, act like the government. You may not build the capability, but you damn better tell them what the requirements are and what they have to do to define that. And you have to set a threshold for them. You can't let them design and set this up for themselves. And it seems like the laziest way to legislate, but I don't honestly know. Truly, we're looking for insight as to where and who's pushed for this. We have some presumptions, but that's all we have for now.
It's kind of unusual, though, that we had some really, really good quality Republicans that were for this bill. Like Gary Click, like Josh Williams. These are strong Republicans. Gary Click, Josh Williams. So it's a little confusing as to why they would do that. It looks like, as you were saying, it is in the House committee. And so they'll be taking proponent testimony is coming up. When is proponent testimony happening?
Coming up this week in the House Technology and Innovation Committee, which is chaired by Thad Claggett. The vice chair is Heidi Workman. Other members on that board include Rep. Doyle, Rep. Demetriou. If these are any of your reps, Rep. Ferguson, call them this week. Tell them to oppose this version. We still don't have the amendment that prevents they say they're working on it now, but we still don't have it to prevent the use of digital ID from voting. Again, we had to intervene for that. And then there's a slew of these other issues that we're going to be unveiling. This is a call to action week, 10 a.m. Tuesday, March 11th. If you're in even Columbus and you want to go to it, or you can go on the Ohio Live channel and watch this. We need all of those committee members to understand it. And in the call to action message that Jonathan mentioned with Mark Paquita, with the Grassroots Freedom Initiative, Mark details the summary highlights of this so that when you call or write your legislature, you just go down the list. It undercuts Ohio's voter ID. It adopts a verification capability that cannot be authenticated with voting systems. There's no government oversight or public ability to access records if there's a breach or compromise of someone's biometrics, and so on and so forth. I've laid it all out there for everybody in the state of Ohio. We need to act on this, and we need to pull this thing back.
All right, so that's Tuesday. The proponent testimony is going to happen on Tuesday. On a scale of 1 to 10, how damaging would this be for voter integrity on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'd say it'd be about a 9.
That high, yeah.
It's that high because at the end of the day, you cannot look at anything as a single static issue. You have to look at it with what is going on. What is going on is the Democrats are moving to gut every single election safeguard that's been hard fought for, from voter ID. Now they enshrine absentee ballot, no excuse absentee ballot. And so everything that we've worked on, my team and our advocates across the state, was for the Republicans, like you say, the good Republicans, to just incrementally move on closing some of these vulnerabilities and gaps, to include Secretary of State LaRose. And they didn't want to do it. Instead, of me working to incrementally fix some of those things, they throw this in there. So we got to play defense off of the old Republicans on this. And this is Ohio for you. This is like people who are operating in their own space in a very narrow understanding of the big picture. I mean, so if it's fortunate we have people who are engaged. We need more to find this stuff and to call it out, because I don't think a lot of these people do this wittingly. I think a lot of times they just go with, let's say, the agenda of a speaker or the governor, and maybe they have in mind personal advancement throughout their careers in Columbus. I suspect that has a lot to do with why they take up bills like this. But either way, there's still some time to reorient this. I'm not opposed to identity credentials, digital identity credentials. I had them in the military. I understand how they work. I understand how to make sure the vendors have capability requirements to meet them properly. But they have not incorporated blockchain or other technologies that are more important up front before they got into the digital ID world. And that's because they don't understand the technology life cycle, and they don't understand. I'm not sure they have the right advisors to walk them through that and to build a plan for them on how to properly do this.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So, well, all right. Anybody got a quick question for him? Anybody out there?
Well, actually, so I'm going to interject a comment. Anybody that follows me on social media, the first thing is watch the video from GFI. It'll inform you, and there's a call to action at the end. As per usual, on social media, on X, Facebook, and others, Truth Social, I will do my best to create a contact list of those I suggest contacting, sending messages to, and I will pre-write a little blurb in my own words and share that freely. Feel free to grab that or anybody else's. I think that just makes it a little bit easier. It becomes point and shoot. Rework it in whatever way you like, but the call to action here is a must. We've got to get on the horn. We've got to send these emails, and we have to send that message to Columbus that we want none of this.
Yep, you got it. Well, we got to keep eyeballs on everything. Yeah, we got to keep eyeballs on everything. All right, Marcel, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. All your insight, all your expertise, insight, and all that. Appreciate it. So,
Thank you, guys. It's great to be with you.
Thanks,
anytime.
Marcel.
Yeah, thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Marcel.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, let's just go to talk a little bit about the property tax stuff tonight as well. So, Brian, you were out there. Was Leonard out there with you in Lorraine?
Yeah,
on Saturday?
why don't we let Leonard start the discussion on that?
Okay, Leonard.
Go
So,
ahead,
what
Leonard.
was it like out there in Lorraine? And tell us about the group and what you guys talk about. I know it was property tax.
Well, basically, in a nutshell, we were just trying to convey to them the message that we are going forward with the premise that we want to eliminate the property tax completely. So, again, our biggest hurdle, again, is education, because people don't understand the importance of freedom and liberty. So we got to back this thing up, to the basics. And so our work is we got a lot of work ahead of us. But the good news is, like I said, we have a draft as far as the initiative petition. We have the wording there, but we need to get a lawyer, someone that understands the Constitution, specifically the property tax issue, so that when we write this up, we don't want to go in, without having all of our facts in a row and then get this thing rejected and have to start all over again. So we want to put our best foot forward. And Brian can give you some more details as far as what he's trying to do as far as reaching out to someone to help us out from the legal standpoint. But we do have something that we put together. We have a clear scope as far as what we're trying to accomplish. And once we can nail down the details as far as what the content should look like, we'll be able to get our signatures and then get our 1,000 signatures and then start the process to get approval from the Attorney General and the Secretary of State. But I'm feeling pretty good about this, because as long as people are learning, they can spread the word. But we do have a lot of work to do. I'm under no illusion that this is going to be a slam dunk, because you have 220 plus years of indoctrination, and you're not going to flip a switch and make this happen overnight. It's going to take a lot of work.
Yeah, how
So
was
I'll let Brian
how was the
fill in
crowd?
with
Were they
you.
receptive? Very receptive to the whole idea and all that.
Yeah, I can fill you in on that, Joe.
Yeah.
Our team, and we built a very nice team. We were in Portage County at the American Legion Hall in Portage in Kent, and we had over 250 participants, people in the audience, and we were very thankful to that. And I should give a shout out to State Rep Heidi Workman. She worked with Tom Z to get, I think it was 40 or 50,000 text messages out there to tell people about the meeting, and they showed up. I would say that we got a very good reception, and they also had local elected officials there at the meeting that were able to have a question and answer period. So it was a very, very good town hall. And then on Saturday, our team went to out to Lorain County, the Tea Party out in Lorain County. That's Kirsten Hill's group out there, and Michael Moats. And I was also very impressed. They had their state rep there, a young lady by the name of, Dieter.
Dieter?
Was it Katie
Yeah,
Dieter?
Dieter.
I believe it was. Yeah,
Yeah, Kate, yeah.
and, yeah, and she, for 2 months on the job, she's extremely articulate and knowledgeable. She gave a rundown on the state budget, for the people, so they would understand at a, pretty high level. But I have to give, a shout out to her. She was very good. And what we really like about when we see the state representatives actually coming to the town halls and talking to the people. We haven't been able to get our representatives, the Dan Troys and the Jamie Calendars and Senator Serino. They basically ignored us, and so it is heartwarming to see that there are some elected officials that do want to meet with the average citizens and answer their questions. We had Elaine Cross. She was in charge of the meeting in Kent, and Elaine joined us in Lorain, and she started off, and she did a wonderful job explaining what we were all about. And then John Mara joined us, and Leonard and I, all four of us were speaking out there. We're trying to as Leonard said, we're trying to educate the people, and we were hoping to have our petition already completed, but we don't want to stumble right out of the block. So that's why, as Leonard said, we're looking for an attorney that has experience writing this initiative petition, because we've got more questions than answers.
So this petition, just so everybody
we've got feelers
understands,
out
Brian,
there
this-
trying to get an attorney.
Yeah.
We're not looking for pro bono work. We're willing to pay for an attorney
Yeah.
to help us put this together. And when we do, then we've had people say to us in both in Portage and also in Lorain County, let us know when you want the signatures. And what we're going to do, we were told to try to use the people in each one of the counties. They're part of the precinct committeemen. They said, you've already got your army in place. So we're very encouraged about that. And Keith Davies in Cuyahoga County is also part of our team, and we're very thankful for that.
Yeah, the thing is with this, the elimination of property taxes, it's not just going to be the Republicans jumping on board. There's going to be a ton of Democrats and independents are going to jump on board with this as well, because they're all feeling the pinch. It's crazy. But what is it, the petition? Just so people don't know, what is this petition that you're trying to write? What does it
The petition
specifically say?
is absolutely, as Leonard said, it is to abolish or eliminate the property tax completely, not a carve out for any particular group. It is the elimination of property taxes completely. We know that's a heavy lift, and we know that there are already Chris Long and his group, Ohio Christian Alliance. They've got a petition that they want to modify the increases, and we're saying the more that we think about working around the edges, it's not going to work. But I'm also trying to caution people, if we eliminate the property tax and let's say we replace it with a sales tax, unless we have an ability to curb the spending of these taxing authorities. And by the taxing authorities, I'm talking about the schools, for example, the municipalities, the county itself, the libraries. What we're seeing is a runaway spending by all of the taxing authorities. And this recent revaluation showed us it was a huge money grab. So we're going to need an entity, whether it's the Budget Commission or some other DOJ type commission that has the authority from the state to tell these schools, no, you can't operate on 50 million. We're going to give you 30 million. You got to figure out a way to operate.
Right. That's the only way. And they're so bloated, all these school systems and everything, with the amount of money that they're operating on. So the process again is you got to get what, 1,000. First of all, you have to write up this amendment, correct? This
we have to have the petition in the format that we believe. We tried to reach out to the Secretary of State and the Attorney General and even the Treasurer, and they won't talk to the peasants. So we're not big supporters of Yost or Sprague or any of them. We think we need some new blood in the State House. So you won't be seeing any of our groups supporting Yost, Sprague, and the others because they won't talk to us.
Also
we have to get 1,000 signatures.
Yeah. If you were to hook up with just a second, if you were to hook up with some of the state reps, because they don't write the laws. The state reps have their own attorneys or lawyers and stuff that help them to write the laws because they don't sit down and write them. They tell them what they want in there. So I don't know if you hook up with a state rep or something. Maybe they can offer some help in getting that petition written up. So if you write it up, they want us to work through
they want us to work through the legal system. We've seen that. They don't want to help the average citizens at all. You would think the Secretary of State's office. That's why we say this representative democracy or constitutional republic. That's another thing I should mention. We did talk to some reps, and Leonard really pinned them down with the question: should the government be involved in education? Whose responsibility is it actually to educate the children? And both reps, after thinking about 30 seconds, they said, well, obviously it's the family. But they quickly came back with, but it's in the Constitution that the state shall provide for education. In which Leonard and I were talking about it, we said, well, if they believe in their heart that that is the role of the family, why don't they sit down and change the Constitution to make that a fact? And then they say they view it as the Constitution is this some rock solid agreement that has never been changed. It's been changed about 176 times. In fact, what we are doing, instead of using the legislators, the legislative branch, we are legislating through the constitutional amendment process. And that's not the way it was supposed to work, to the best of my knowledge. But it's so easy to change our Constitution. That's what they're doing. But now, if you have representatives that believe the Constitution is not valid on the education side, they do not have the leadership ability nor want to put themselves at risk for changing the Constitution to make it believe what they think it should be.
Well, maybe they're reading too much into that Constitution too, because I have a question for you. And what is it that makes it a government or a state-run school? What is the criteria for that? Because the only thing I could come up with was
I don't have it in front of me, but if you look at the Constitution, it will say that the state will provide for public education. It doesn't say that it'll be through property tax or sales tax.
So all it's saying in the Constitution really is that they're going to provide money. The state will provide money so the kid can get educated. I don't see where it says that it has to be run by the teachers union and the whole thing. I think that it's just they're going to give some money Isn't that what the Constitution says? So that could be for homeschooling, that could be for private schools, that could be for the public school, that could be for whatever.
They say, I think the word is efficient, and our system, our school system, is anything but efficient. I mean,
That's a joke.
We're
It's become an
something like
absolute
38th in the nation,
Yeah.
and we're spending anywhere from 15,000 to 44,000 per student, depending on the school district. And who says that we have to have over 600 school districts?
And who
If
said
you've
we
got
have to have
declining enrollments,
right? And who
why
said
are we hiring more teachers, administrators, and
Right.
having all of these school districts?
Who said we had to have administrators from everywhere? Every
That's
rock,
true.
every rock you unturn has to have a new administrator just pops up or whatever.
And don't forget about all the endless new construction. We constantly have to be building because that's a great way to
100%, Jonathan.
launder
100%.
money. All the construction is a tremendous way to launder money. So I want to interject something because I think that there's a perpetually broken concept of the way that our government is supposed to work. We think in terms of trying to find some rep somewhere who is willing to tackle writing a bill or getting something into the Constitution or fixing something. And I am in a concerted effort to retrain not only myself, but anybody else who is concerned about any issue. Right now we're talking about education, and I want to change the framework completely. And that has everything to do with local government, because local government is where all the traction is. It's where all the power resides. We have been distracted for decades by the concept of watching our president or whatever's happening in the statehouse, and we have relinquished our true power, which is through something called the Central Committee. This, for a lot of our listeners, may sound a little bit strange, but hear me out. We have a system of government that is brilliant when it works properly. We, the people, are supposed to have a local representative to voice our concerns and frustrations, anxieties about life, and our wishes. That person is supposed to work at the local level in your county and then affect change. And if enough counties care about an issue, whatever it is, anything, any issue, anything you can think of, if it matters to we the people, and enough we the people make fuss about it, I will tell you, anybody you can think of, all of the aforementioned people, Mike DeWine, Dave Yost, Frank LaRose, all of them, 100% of the time will absolutely do absolutely anything that we want them to do when enough of us in Ohio voice a concern. What it takes in order for us to do that is filling what are called Central Committeeman chairs. There's a big effort underway to try and get more people active, involved, and engaged at the local level where you live, because if enough of us fill these seats and become active and vocal, we can change anything. There's a reason that the people who are in power don't talk about this, because they know that we will not only challenge their power, we will surpass and nullify their sense of top-down authority that they have. So let me put that into context here for this education thing and any other issue. Voting machines, open borders, funding lawfare, the legal system, whatever. Any issue that is of concern to you, First Amendment right, everything, all of it. What is supposed to happen is, and what I would suggest, maybe Brian, you touched on it, go to local representatives, try to get in front of the leadership of the Republican Party in every county, and get them to consider passing a motion, a resolution to change our state constitution so that the state is no longer obligated, as they are now, to tackle education. That takes those handcuffs off. Once we do that, we will understand as a state where the true power is supposed to reside. And then from that moment forward, anything that we want to accomplish as a state will get done anytime we want to do it. There is, in my mind, there is no caveat to that. There is nothing that we cannot accomplish when we, the people, organize. There's a reason that civics were derailed and basically non-existent since the 60s, and most people don't know this because we've left a void. Ohio is only about half filled, which means that about half of Ohio's residents have no local representative because nobody bothered to run. When we fix that, we can fix all of these problems. It's called precinct strategy. Go to ohioprecinctstrategy.org. There are a couple of videos that tells you all about it, but in my book, it solves every one of these problems.
No, you're right. You got it. You got it. Hey, John
But
Mara
I
is
can
with
say
us.
one thing about that.
Yeah. What's that? What's that?
One of the things that Jonathan is presupposing is that we have an educated society, and it's worse than what he realizes. And also was talking about local representation. I can't even get local reps to even find out or ask the question, what is the role of government? So even on a local level, I mean, we have some serious work to do here. And as far as the state representatives, again, they're products of the local. They came from the local. So they have the same mindset that's transferring from where we started and transferring up through the system. So that's what I'm saying. Our biggest hurdle is the education factor. I understand exactly what you're saying, and what you're saying is exactly right. But because of what we have done to our Constitution and how we're managing it, we have really just basically destroyed the whole concept of representation. So we got a lot of work to do, and I applaud you for that effort. But I tell you what, it's going to be some work. So even getting the local people there or the local representatives on the same page, that right there alone is going to be a serious task. So,
True.
Yeah. No problem. Well, John. So from what I've heard, you are like totally for as high a property taxes as we can get, and so I want you to defend that now. You got to turn your mic on. Got to
Turn your mic on, John.
Oh wait, let me make sure it's on my. It might be on my end. Hang on. Sorry about that. It was on my. I can't turn it on. Oh shoot! How could I not turn it on? Doggone it. John.
Keep talking, John, so we can tell when your mic starts working.
For some reason,
There we go.
it's
There we
good
go.
on my end.
that's it.
We got it. We got it.
Okay,
Okay.
good. Yeah, our whole part is trying to educate people. I mean, what we're trying to do is just tell them that we've been scammed. And there's only one thing. We're trying to go from the bottom up. But the problem we're finding is that these legislators, reps, are only there for 2 years. The first year, they're trying to balance a budget, figure what's going on. And when they try to help out, the second year, they're trying to get reelected. I mean, Brian's brought that up many, many times. So, and pretty much, they're all on carve-outs. They can never get together on what they want, how they want to do it. And even when they do the carve-outs, they have to still find alternate funding, which really comes from income tax and sales tax anyway. So ultimately, there's only the three sources: income tax, sales tax, and then you got the property tax. And if we're going to eliminate it, and the whole thing is we have to eliminate the penalty. So, our whole thing is we're trying to get elimination of the school funding on the property tax, but they don't want to do it through the legislation from the bottom up. So therefore, there's only one way in our minds to do it now, is to totally abolish property tax altogether and let them figure out how to collect the money for the schools. If the school system mandates that they have to provide education, well, then let them fund it and provide it. And again, they need to take it over. This way, it'll free us up with the money that we can actually then have our own choice. We don't need vouchers. We just send our kid to what school we want with the money we save, from the property tax. So, we're all for this. We're behind it. I think everyone we should get 100% support, because who doesn't want to not pay property tax? Anyone who wants to pay, just tell them, hey, you know what? Voluntarily get your checkbook, write it to your favorite municipality, school, charity, whatever you want. God bless you. But, it shouldn't be voluntary. It should not be mandatory. So, and then we shouldn't be penalized. That's the biggest thing that bothers me, I guess, is the penalty. Again, we don't own our house, because if we don't pay the property tax, if we run into financial trouble for 3 years, they start foreclosure and take it away. So, we cannot afford to lose our houses that way. And then, again, pass it on generation after generation. I mean, the taxes the way they keep going up, I mean, our kids won't even be able to afford the taxes itself. I mean, I'm living in my house now. I don't have a mortgage, thank God, but I can't afford the taxes. I mean, so they're just way out of control. I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost $1,000 a month just for my taxes. This is just way, way out of control. And the way they have the system rigged, they rig it purposely to try to bleed as much money out of the community as they can from anywhere they can. So,
No, I got you. And then when you go on Social Security, how are you going to pay those property taxes? I mean, you just can't.
you have to borrow money.
You have to take up a home equity loan.
You have to borrow money. That's it. There's no way
taxes.
around it.
And then eventually you lose the house anyway. So, all right, last
That's it.
Yeah, but Brian,
Last call.
Brian
Go ahead.
And, Brian and Leonard know there are people out there, especially some elderly people, that are at risk of losing their home, being kicked out of their home that they own outright because they've gotten behind on these exorbitant taxes and they can't afford to come up with huge payments. There's a video that came out of Lake County recently of this sweet elderly woman. I think she's like late 80s. She's lived in this home for I don't know how many years, and she's having to scrape up with like over $2,000 to pay these taxes just to stay in her home. It's outrageous. I do have an unrelated comment, Joe. Let me know if we switch topic or if I can interject something.
We'll go and interject it. I'll get Brian. I'll give Brian the last word.
One last thing,
Or I'll let
if
Brian
I
talk
could, Joe.
now.
Just
Go ahead.
it's not only the seniors. I was talking to several 25, 35-year-olds today, and their American dream of home ownership, they don't think they'll ever own a home. They think it is because of the property taxes, the cost of the homes, the mortgage rates. They're way over the 30% housing affordability threshold. So they don't even have that, as a possibility in their life. In fact, I was talking to one young lady today, 25 years of age. She says, I can't afford to live in America. She's moved to Australia, and she says it's much cheaper there. So
Wow.
We're on the wrong path. We're on the wrong path.
Well, yep, and the path has to change, and we're the ones who do it. The citizens have to do it, and since we cannot pay the property taxes, there is no alternative anymore. There's no alternative anymore. All right, Jonathan, you can wrap it up tonight. Go ahead.
All right, I'm going to wrap it up by encouraging everybody to go onto the social media platform X, formerly Twitter, and look for a guy by the name of Sean Hendricks. His Twitter handle is the Sean Hendricks. Sean is spelled SHAWN. He has made an intro video with the Data Republican. Anybody who doesn't know who that is, that's the blind woman, excuse me, she's deaf. The deaf woman who is helping Elon Musk with Doge. She's made a huge name for herself, and she is a brilliant data analyst, and she's created an interface where any of us, all of us, you, our friends out there, can go online and use this interface that she has created to Doge whatever you want. Doge Ohio, you can Doge nonprofits all over the country. You can look up politicians, see who is funding them, where the money's going. The thing is brilliant and amazing. I just watched the video last night. I shared it on my profile, but you'll see the video directly. You'll find it there. There's also, I think he's posted on YouTube as well. If you like YouTube better, he's probably something similar on YouTube. It's the Sean Hendricks, Hendrix, first name SHAWN. Watch that video and start playing. I'm already hearing from friends of mine in Chicago. So I've got an interview that I just did with somebody from the Chicago area, president of the Parents Involved in Education, and he's been doing a lot of stuff there, and including working with Homan from Department of Homeland Security, DHS, and these things in Chicago. So I'm already hearing within 24 hours that they're looking into some of the immigrant facilities from Chicago and finding treasure troves of information. Watch the video, start digging into stuff, and start sharing. Let's find out what we can. Let's Doge Ohio.
You better believe it. All right. Well, good night, everybody. Let's Doge Ohio, and we'll talk to everybody soon. Okay. Have a good night. Have a good night.
Thanks, John. Thanks, John.
Right.
Thanks, Leonard.
Now you're the ones who've lost their touch. You rigged the game, you changed the rules. Gaslit the world, played us for fools.
You know, I was going to tell you something. You're dead on about representation